reading from the book of the prophet Ezekiel. Thus says the Lord, you say, the Lord's way is not fair. Hear now, house of Israel, is it my way that is unfair, or rather, are not your ways unfair? When someone virtuous turns away from virtue to commit iniquity and dies, it is because of the iniquity he committed that he must die. But if he turns from the wickedness he has committed, he does what is right and just, he shall preserve his life. Since he has turned away from all the sins that he has committed, he shall surely live, he shall not die. The word of the Lord.
Our first reading for this Sunday comes from the great prophet Ezekiel. I would like to start our reflection by going to something that is part of daily experience, and it is something that is claimed to be permanent in life, and that is change. They say if there is something permanent in life, it is change. And we expect change. When there are situations that are not quite pleasant, we need a change. But there is also a type of change that we do not like. We do not generally approve of people who cannot make up their minds. And we say, oh, how fickle, how changeable. Now, the first reading brings to our attention two types of change in people's minds and behavior. There is a change that happens with those who are virtuous. They are already living in virtue, meaning they are already treading the path of goodness, justice, and values. But sadly, a change comes to them. They turn from their virtuous ways to a life of wickedness. Oh, that is a very sad type of change. Normally, that is not the type of change that we would expect of ourselves and of other people. We will be sorry for that type of change to happen. You are already virtuous, and then you turn out to be evil. How come? Why that change? Why did you allow that type of change to happen in your person and in your life? But the first reading talks of a second type of change, the type that we normally would welcome. A person is sinful, wicked. This person was enveloped by evil, but then something happens to the person, and there is a change in his mind, in his heart. This person turns away from iniquity and embraces a life of justice, righteousness, and virtue. Wow, what a wonderful change! I think that type of change will bring a lot of joy, not only to the person, but to his or her family and to society at large. And that is also the type of change that pleases God. Now, according to the prophet Ezekiel, if a virtuous man turns away from virtue and embraces a life of evil, that person will have to face the consequence of such a change. That change will lead to disaster, punishment. Whereas the person who started with evil but turns away from it and embraces a life of value and righteousness, that person will enjoy or reap the fruits of his change, and it is life. So, there is a change that leads to destruction, and there is a change that leads to life. The Lord is often accused of being unfair How come a formerly righteous person could end up in hell because of a bad choice? And how come a person who used to be evil could end up in life, enjoying life, because he has changed for justice and righteousness? It is not a question of God's unfairness or being fair. The question is, what type of change do we allow to happen in our lives? Change is permanent, but we can choose what type of change will we welcome in our persons and in our lives.